Hello, my name is Dr. Jacelyn Henderson, and I am an Education Program Specialist for the Georgia Department of Education. I am going to provide guidance about Georgia's Corrective Action Plan, or CAP, specifically as it relates to disproportionality determinations and noncompliance findings. Using this module as technical assistance, most questions related to developing a CAP should be answered. An LEA can receive disproportionality determinations for one or more areas: significant disproportionality, disproportionate representation, and/or significant discrepancy. The Disproportionality Self-Assessment Monitoring Protocol is administered to LEAs as a way to review policies, procedures, and practices that may be contributing to disproportionality. The protocol contains 6 focus areas in which an LEA can be found to have non-compliant policies, procedures, and/or practices. Your district completed specific focus areas relative to the identified area of disproportionality. Godot reviewed your self-assessment protocol and supporting documentation and evidence. This information was used to determine whether your district had non-compliant policies, procedures, and/or practices. As there is no threshold for non-compliance, a finding in one or more areas would constitute corrective actions. Information regarding specific non-compliance findings was included in your notification letter. An example is displayed on the screen. Ensuring that IDEA is being implemented in a compliant way is not only required, but also what is best for students and families. If there are issues of non-compliant practices in a district, it is highly likely that one or more of the components of general supervision are not in place. These components are necessary for the compliant implementation of IDEA. As a result, Godot has placed a very strong emphasis on the importance of effective general supervision. This can be seen throughout the self-assessment monitoring protocol. For example, this is the focus area 2 of the self-assessment monitoring protocol. The first 4 questions of each focus area are the components of general supervision. The remaining questions are specific practices for that particular area. If all the components of general supervision are in place, in general, there should be evidence and documentation of compliant practices. This is attachment 6 of the self-assessment monitoring protocol. The purpose for completing attachment 6 is to develop an action plan that the district will use to help address issues related to disproportionality. This attachment is required if you are required to develop a CAP. Please complete this attachment and submit with your CAP. Once you have been notified that you have non-compliance, the district must submit a Corrective Action Plan, or CAP, to Godot. The CAP template is attachment 7 in the disproportionality self-assessment. Let's look at the CAP template. Please pay special attention to these directions. Note that districts are required to provide Prong 1 and Prong 2 data submissions, and all corrective actions must be completed no later than 1 year after notification, which is the verification date. Additional guidance will be given in a later slide on Prong 1 and Prong 2 data submissions. Please note, reviews of student records are required for clearance of non-compliance. Next section. Please include contact information for the person who is responsible for CAP completion and answer the questions that follow. 1. What is the area of non-compliance? This is a universal cap for all kinds of areas of noncompliance, therefore, you will see a number of options. However, if you have disproportionality related to identification and disproportionate representation, you would select indicator 9 and 10. If you have disproportionality related to significant discrepancy, you would select indicator 4A and 4B. If you have disproportionality related to placement, you would select indicator 5. If you have a significant disproportionality for discipline determination, please leave this item blank. Question 2. You would select self-assessment. Question 3. Briefly describe the finding of non-compliance. For example, non-compliance was identified related to the identification process, specifically SST and child find procedures. Question 4. Briefly describe the root cause of non-compliance. One way to obtain this information is to conduct a root cause analysis. Root cause analysis tries to solve problems by attempting to identify and correct the root causes of events as opposed to simply addressing their symptoms. Question 5. List the corrective action planning members. So let's take a look at a sample noncompliance finding and CAP. District ABC has a determination in discipline. The findings are related to school-wide approaches, pre-referral interventions, and discipline. Specifically, the following components of general supervision: lack of written procedures, professional learning, supervision monitoring documentation, and identifying personnel who are not compliant and providing them with TA. District ABC was also cited for noncompliance in the area of discipline. In addition to providing evidence that the components of general supervision are being implemented, student records will be reviewed to determine if timely manifestation meetings are held, parent notification of changes in placement are given, evidence of completion of FBAs and BIPs, and also the LEA has to provide documentation of ISS and OSS days for students with disabilities. It is important that your CAP clearly demonstrates how your noncompliance finding and corrective actions are aligned. Let's look at this CAP. As you can see, in order to address the citation related to school-wide approaches and pre-referral interventions for not having written procedures, the LEA will develop system-wide RTI procedures. This activity will be documented through an RTI manual and verified by reviewing student records to ensure the procedures are being followed. This district also has a citation related to the school-wide approaches and pre-referral interventions indicator for not providing sustained, high-quality professional learning. In efforts to address this citation, the district will provide PL related to their specific RTI SST procedures. Evidence of correction is an updated procedural manual, PL calendar, content which includes PowerPoints, resources, and any other materials used for PL, and of course reviewing student records to ensure that the procedures are being implemented. Remember, District ABC also had a specific citing related to ensuring that the district provides pre-referral interventions that are equitable by type, degree, and frequency across all racial ethnic groups. Although we don't have a specific activity that addresses this citation must also be corrected. As part of your procedures, professional learning, and supervision and monitoring, this needs to be addressed. How will you and we know that pre-referral interventions are equitable across all racial ethnic groups? By reviewing student records. All students should have equal access to evidence-based interventions implemented with high fidelity. It shouldn't be dependent on what school you go to or whose class you are in. A representative sampling of records from across your school district should be able to demonstrate that this is happening. Also, please note the time frame of the proposed activities. District ABC estimated that it would take them a few months to write the procedures. After the procedures are written, they estimated approximately 1 month to complete the initial training. Now remember, there has to be high quality and sustained professional learning activities. How will you sustain professional learning activities? Please specify this is happening in the documentation that is submitted to verify the activity. Let's look at the other two components of general supervision applied to the area of discipline. For Indicator 3, the corrective action is to develop and implement supervision monitoring plan for the implementation of the IDEA discipline rule. The completion dates essentially span the year because although you will develop or revise your supervision monitoring plan early on, the monitoring activities will go on all year. It is the same for Indicator 4. The corrective action is the same as the corrective action for Indicator 3, with the addition of providing evidence for any TA that was given to personnel as a result of non-compliance that was found through supervision monitoring activities. The GDO will be frequently monitoring progress towards completion of the CAP activities. GDO recommends that procedures are developed within 30 to 60 days of notification. GDO will be contacting you to schedule submission of records to verify compliance. Submission of student records are Prong 1 and Prong 2 data requirements. Prong 1 data were the folders that were reviewed as part of the self-assessment monitoring protocol. Therefore, the submission date for Prong 1 is the date of the on-site verification visit or conference call that was held with GDO. Prong 2 submission date is the date that GDO will request records to verify compliance, which has to be well within 1 year of notification. Please note that GDO will conduct reviews of student records to ensure correction of non-compliance. For any questions related to the content of this webinar, please contact Dr. Jacelyn Henderson at the Georgia Department of Education.